The hallway fell silent the moment the punch landed. It wasn't the kind of silence that came from shock alone, it was the kind that made the air feel thick, like even the walls were holding their breath. A sharp gasp rippled through the students as the new girl, a small framed 16-year-old named Marin Elwood, staggered from the hit that snapped her head to the side. The boy who swung at her, tall, broad-shouldered Rex Dalton, notorious for bullying freshmen, smirked as though victory was already his. But in the next second, before anyone could blink, Marin planted her foot, twisted, and delivered a clean, devastating punch that connected squarely with Rex's nose. A sickening crunch echoed through the corridor. Blood exploded down his shirt as he collapsed to his knees, screaming in pain while everyone froze, staring at the girl who barely flinched. And in that one moment, her entire life at Ridgebrook High changed forever. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and courage in the face of cruelty, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Your support helps stories like this reach more hearts. The day had started like any other late summer morning. Sunlight spilled over Ridgebrook's lawns, warming the bricks until the entire campus looked almost welcoming. But Marin wasn't fooled. She had moved too many times to trust first impressions. Her mother's new job meant another school, another town, another attempt to blend into a world that always found her too quiet, too strange, too intense. She walked through the entrance clutching her backpack straps as if the pressure could keep her breathing steady. But today, there was something different. Today, she felt strangely grounded, as though her heavy past had finally taught her how to stand on her own feet. She had survived things worse than high school bullies, she had endured the aftermath of losing her father in a tragic accident 2 years earlier. He had been the anchor of the family, the one who taught her resilience through discipline and hope through action. He trained her in boxing since she was 9, not for violence but for confidence, for balance, for learning how to defend herself when words failed. He always told her that the strongest person in the room was rarely the loudest, but sometimes, when pushed too far, quiet strength had to speak in other ways. She kept that lesson buried deep in her chest like a secret flame. Her first class was history, and she chose a seat near the window, hoping the sunlight would shield her from the strange looks that always came with being the new girl. For the next few hours, everything felt manageable. Teachers welcomed her politely, students glanced but didn't stare, and no one seemed particularly interested in causing trouble. But peace never lasted long in schools where power was currency, and those who had it flaunted it like armor. It was during lunch that things changed. The cafeteria was loud, crowded, and tightly packed, and Marin almost regretted showing up. She found a free seat at the end of a long table, opened her lunch, and focused on eating quickly so she could slip away unnoticed. But Rex Dalton spotted her from across the room. He thrived off fear, off finding the smallest target and tearing them apart. The moment he realized there was a new girl sitting in his section, he marched over, flanked by his 2 friends, Gavin and Tripp, both smirking like hyenas behind their ringleader. Marin didn't even see him approach at first. She only realized something was wrong when the table shook as his tray slammed beside her. Rex towered above her, blocking the light, and the murmurs of the cafeteria multiplied instantly. Though she felt her heartbeat quicken, Marin stayed still, refusing to give him the satisfaction of a reaction. But Rex wanted something else too, public humiliation. Something to assert his dominance. He leaned in closer, expecting her to slide out of the seat in fear. But she didn't move. She didn't flinch. She simply ate her lunch with a calmness that infuriated him. Rex demanded she move. She didn't. He barked orders. She remained unfazed. He laughed loudly, trying to provoke her, but her silence held more strength than any comeback could. And that was when his anger boiled over. Rex wasn't used to defiance, especially from someone smaller, someone new, someone he assumed would crumble. So he tried to force her up by grabbing her backpack. Marin caught the strap before he could yank it, her grip iron tight. That quiet resistance only enraged him more. When she still refused to stand, he threw the punch. The blow hurt, her jaw throbbed instantly, but something inside her snapped into place rather than breaking apart. The fear never came. The trembling never arrived. Instead, a memory flashed, her father's voice reminding her that nobody had the right to hurt her. So with the entire cafeteria watching, she rose slowly, planted her feet with precision, and let instinct take over. The punch she delivered was swift, controlled, and devastating. It was self-defense, pure and clear. Rex's friends jumped back in shock. Students screamed. Teachers scrambled toward the chaos. Marin didn't run. She simply stood there, breathing deeply, steadying herself, refusing to crumble even when the room erupted into whispers that sliced through the air like wildfire. She was escorted to the principal's office immediately, but even walking through the hall, she could feel dozens of eyes pinned on her, some fearful, some impressed, some curious. Rumors began swirling before she even sat down. Words like dangerous, crazy, and psycho drifted through the halls, but mixed in were strong, brave, and she dropped him like nothing. It was too much attention for someone who never wanted any. Principal Averly was stern but fair. She knew Rex's history well and had dealt with countless complaints from frightened students over the years. After reviewing camera footage, speaking to multiple witnesses, and assessing the situation, she concluded Marin had acted in self-defense. Rex, however, earned a suspension. Even so, the ordeal left Marin emotionally drained. She wasn't proud of what happened, she never wanted to hurt anyone, but she also knew she didn't deserve to be hit for simply sitting in a seat. When she returned to class the next morning, she expected cold shoulders and whispers. Instead, she found something else entirely. A quiet respect, a shift in the air. Students no longer stared at her like she was an outsider but like someone who refused to break under pressure. Her first supporter was Leona Briggs, a girl with deep brown eyes, a messy ponytail, and a laugh that filled hallways effortlessly. Leona approached her at her locker with a nervous smile, thanking her for standing up to Rex, explaining how he had terrorized half the freshman girls the previous year. She admired Marin, but more importantly, she wanted to be her friend. Over the next few days, Marin found herself pulled into conversations, invited to sit at new tables, and treated with a warmth she didn't expect. But trauma layered itself beneath her skin like armor, and even with kindness surrounding her, she often kept her guard high. That changed when Leona introduced her to the art club. The moment Marin stepped into the sunlit room filled with brushstrokes, sketches, and color, something inside her softened. It reminded her of her father, who used to draw small doodles in her boxing notebooks to make her laugh after tough training sessions. Art became her quiet refuge in this new school world. As weeks passed, Rex returned from suspension, his nose healed but his pride shattered. Instead of resuming his reign of intimidation, he shrank away from trouble. He couldn't escape the whispers, students talking about how the new girl dropped him without fear. But Rex also carried something else now, shame. And shame, when heavy enough, sometimes forces people to reflect. One afternoon, Marin stepped out behind the gym after practice to catch her breath and found Rex standing there alone, staring at the ground. The sunlight cut through the trees, making the whole moment feel strangely gentle rather than threatening. Rex didn't approach her aggressively. Instead, he murmured a quiet apology through trembling lips. He didn't blame her. He blamed himself, for the punch, for the ego, for the years of hurting others. Marin listened silently, her chest tight with conflicting emotions. Forgiveness wasn't simple, but she saw the sincerity in his eyes. People weren't always defined by their worst moments, her father taught her that. And so she nodded, offering a small piece in the form of understanding, not forgetting. From that day on, Marin's life at Ridgebrook transformed. She found purpose in art, strength in friendship, and healing in allowing herself to forgive, not for others but for her own heart. Students who once ignored her now admired her courage. Teachers praised her resilience. The hallway that once felt like hostile territory became a path she walked proudly. Her mother noticed the change too. Marin smiled more. She rested better. She spoke freely without fear. The weight she carried from years of moving, grieving, and hiding slowly lifted. But the most meaningful moment came during the school's autumn art exhibition. Marin unveiled a painting dedicated to her father, a vivid piece in warm shades of gold and orange, showing a young girl standing tall in the middle of a storm yet still holding a beam of light. The crowd whispered in awe, but Marin only cared about one thing: she finally felt brave enough to share her story without hiding behind silence. As students approached to compliment her artwork, some even thanked her for inspiring them to stand up for themselves, to seek help, to believe in their inner strength. Marin realized then that her journey, painful, messy, unexpected, had become a beacon for others. And she understood now how strength wasn't just physical, It lived in vulnerability, in truth, in growth. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your engagement helps Kindness Corner spread more stories that inspire courage, healing, and hope. Special request. Comment, strength with kindness, if you believe small acts of courage can change the world.